So welcome everyone, and I guess as things progress, we'll have a few more people that'll join us. So I'll share screen just for a minute, and this is probably predominantly for the Water Corporation members and also DALP. I'm mindful that we've got some universities that are joining us. So I just wanted to show you quickly just the updated IWN website. So we keep this relatively up to date, so it's just had a little bit of a refresh. So today's session falls under our biosolids and resource recovery program, which Aravind leads. So very grateful for your contribution, and also Rodrigo, who's our deputy program manager, that offer in-kind support on top of their day jobs to provide some industry work on behalf of IWN. So for the member water corporations that we've got online at the moment, just a reminder that if you're after information in relation to the biosolids and resource recovery program or any program, is that you can just register for our knowledge hub and tick your preferences. So if you wanted to keep in touch around the webinars, biosolids and resource recovery or anything, all you need to do is click those areas of interest and hit submit. For everyone who's here, so whether you're at a university, anyone can sign up for our newsletter, and it's just a good way of keeping in touch. We send out a newsletter every month, just at the start of the month. So probably that's it from a IWN point of view. I guess we're very fortunate today to have some key people from EPA, being Shahbaz and Carlos. So I'll read their bios to you. Shahbaz is an experienced client-focused chemical engineer with more than 22 years of experience in manufacturing, technical support services to the gas industry, environmental consulting, facilities risk assessment, and industrial waste management technologies. With more than 16 years with EPA, he has delivered projects and technical advice in relation to many projects in government involving regulatory, statutory or non-statutory and enforced functions. Subject matter expert, Shahbaz is highly knowledgeable of environmental regulation compliance, enforcement matters and chemical project management. So great to have you with us today, Shahbaz, and also Carlos from EPA, MBA chemical engineer with over 20 years of experience executing projects in a wide range of heavy industries and academia. Carlos has worked in the private sector in power generation, water and wastewater treatment. In addition to this, his experience with hazard facilities. Carlos has also led research projects at the University of Sydney for a combustion group sponsored by a British defence contractor aiming to commercialise hydrogen technologies for petrochemical facilities, offshore and aerospace applications. So great to have you both here today. The other thing that I'll mention is that we've got a two-part series. So this is the first one. The second one is on the 19th of November. So if you don't have that in your calendar, just drop your email address in the chat function. And what we'll do is we'll forward that calendar invite to you today. So my understanding about today is we're going to cover the 3Cs and the 3Ds. I won't pretend to know what that's about, but by the end of this session, we'll all have a better understanding. So I'll hand it over to our speakers from the EPA.
Hello, Ian Stranger. How are you? That's good. That's good.
Just check, because I'll put whoever's on mute. So we can just make
yeah, we can see some
our things on mute. We're also recording today, and the other thing that I'll mention too is that if you've got any questions, just put them in the chat function and we can deal with those as we have a break. So over to you, Carlos and Shahbaz.
All right, so let me see. Let me just get some technical things running and then we'll start. I'm gonna have to shut down my video, so you guys, you will see my share screen, because otherwise my bandwidth is gonna go. As we were presented, so my name is Carlos, and So these are basically a bit of a summary of our experience, which Dan already mentioned. So let's jump straight into the topic. So what are the 3Cs and the 3Ds of waste management? So we are gonna take you guys through a quick journey of what has been happening in Victoria on the changes that happen with the new acts and regulations, and then how those changes reflect on these two concepts that especially Shahbaz was the one with the idea of coming up with these 3Cs and 3Ds as a catchy term for you guys to remember those like that regulatory terminology. So let's start with the first topic, which is the new acts and regulations. So what is changing? So in the previous approach of EPA, the Environment Protection Act was more like when you talk in maintenance terms, it was more a reactive type of regulatory framework. So someone does something wrong, and then the act is telling us what to do. So it was more a focus on managing pollution. With the new act, the idea is to be more prevention based, and this is a very similar approach that you probably have seen on occupational health and safety nowadays with WorkSafe. So you will hear concepts about as reasonably as practical, general environmental duty, these sort of concepts. So within this new regulatory framework, and yeah, so going to this slide. In this new regulatory framework, there is a slightly change on the definitions of waste. So in the previous act, waste has certain definitions, while in the new act is basically saying is any matter, greenhouse gas, anything that is discarded, rejected, abandoned, unwanted, or a surplus, irrespective of any potential use or value. We'll give you handouts of these. So yeah, so no need to. Yeah, you feel that you haven't been able to take notes, don't worry. Like we'll give you handouts of these so you can find where in the act is this definition, because I guess that for many of you this definition is going to come very handy. So then with those changes in the act, so how is that reflected in the environment protection framework? So in the previous act, so this was the framework, and now in the new framework, I think that the main change is that this area of compliance codes are in this level, and then on this level there are going to be a lot of non-statutory guidance and educational campaigns. That's something that will be aiming at have more, like EPA to have more presence in the community. So this is going to be the one of the key parts with those changes. So to keep it simple for you guys, so what are the main things that you need to be aware of? So with the new regulations, looking at the waste streams as a supply chain issue. So the main two concepts that probably you need to look at is what are waste duties and what is the general environmental duty, which brings these three concepts: classification of waste, transport of waste, and lawful place. So what is classification? It says here, properly identify and classify waste so that it's clear what duties apply to the waste and how to manage it. So that's the first part, understanding okay, what I'm disposing, what I'm getting rid of. Bear in mind the previous slide about this definition of waste. So if the material is defined as waste, so the duty holder or the operator, as we call it, so then needs to understand what is what they are disposing of. Then transport, I think that's clear enough. So there are few obligations for transporters of waste between one place to another one. And then the lawful place. So lawful place is ensure that the industrial waste only goes somewhere with a lawful authority to receive it through a permission, declaration of use, determination, or is authorized under Regulation 63. Basically, in simple terms, what this means is lawful place is defining that this site where the waste from here is transported there is able to receive that waste. And when I said being able, is that it has a sort of permission, and that permission depends on what is the waste being received. So then, as I mentioned before, one of the main concepts with these new regulations is the GED. So what is the GED? So that stands for General Environmental Duty, which basically says that when someone has control of the waste, the general environmental duty will always apply, and that brings this concept. So what are the risks, or what is the likelihood that something wrong could happen with that waste? How the duty holder is going to have access or ways to eliminate or reduce that risk? Our expectations that if you are running a business of X, Y, or Z type of industry, there is certain knowledge and understanding what are the consequences of those risks and how those risks could be eliminated. And here is in simple terms showing the state of knowledge. So the more time an industry has been in the market, the more are the expectations from the regulator that industry has knowledge on the responsibility. And again, over time, is supposed to, like our expectations that the industry has more accumulated knowledge, and that's what we call state of knowledge. So a quick summary here is the new waste framework. So when we look at the act, this picture is not very clear, but yeah, I'll give you a better version. But here is basically extracting few sections from the act and trying to summarize the concepts that I just explained before about where in the act falls this part of classification, where you can find the GED, and then what concerns to transport, tracking, and lawful place, and always bearing in mind as a similar approach, OHS, so a hierarchy of control. So when it comes to environment, is the same concept. So the first most effective and desirable approach is to eliminate risks, and then you follow the other ways to cope with that risk. So jumping into the core part of the presentation, what are the 3Cs? So the 3Cs are characterization, categorization, and classification. So here we are going to talk about the first stage on that first slide where I was showing what are the obligations of the duty holder. So what are those three terms: characterization, categorization, and classification. The classification is determining what how risky a waste is. And basically what the regulation is saying is, as producer of waste, you need to find out in which of these buckets you are gonna classify that waste. So if it's reasonably low risk, so then it's industrial waste. And then if it has certain risk, it can be priority waste. And then if the material it has a higher level of risk, so then that will be reportable priority waste. Your main guideline to follow this through is this one, which I'll put the reference here, and yeah, you guys, you'll have it available. And then in another slide, I'll show you where you find that. So that's the first part, classifications, understanding how risky your waste is. Then characterization is going to be deeper. Characterization is understanding if the waste may fall into these categories of of dangerous goods. And then your key guideline from EPA Victoria is going to be this one, the Waste Classification Assessment Protocol. So that guide, I'll show you shortly. We have time later, but that guideline has few appendixes, and that gives you an idea of how to follow through. So if the waste falls into one of these classes, so then it's easy to determine if it's a dangerous goods, or you can use the global harmonized system, or you can find Appendix C that shows the considerations for persistent, bioaccumulative, or toxic, or if it's a liquid, which is very analog, as I was mentioning, that is very analog to the concept of WorkSafe. In WorkSafe, you got the acts, which is the occupational health and safety and dangerous goods, and then you have a second level, which are the regulations, codes of practice, and then standards that the industry follows. So we have covered two C's. Then the third C is categorization. Categorization is going a bit deeper. So it's determining like how, like we know now that that waste may have a dangerous goods class, and now we know if it could be priority or reportable priority waste. But now if it's going to be disposed of, we need to determine how risky that the material is. So this is your key guide, and in the guide there are a few categories. So for example, category A waste is prohibited from disposal to landfill. It's just too risky to put in a landfill. Category B may go to certain types of landfills, and so on. So you can find probably the less risky for soil, category B, or industrial waste for other types of waste, or categorizations like this one, soil containing asbestos only, or package waste asbestos. Within the categorization in this same document, so there are some tables, and in those tables are shown the concentration thresholds. So notice that here includes total concentration and leachable concentration. So that's what will determine a category. So in the case of soil, so you go category B, if it's not too contaminated, so category C, and then it drops to category D, and then field. If it's other waste that is not soil, so then it goes category B, category C, or industrial waste. But it has to meet these criteria, that the leachability and the total concentration are under those thresholds. So then how do you do this in practice? So when you go back to, I'll show you in the next slide, but when you go to that first guideline that says, okay, well, how do I follow this? So we created this flow chart to give you a better visual idea of how to follow that. So let's say that you have a waste stream. So you follow that guideline, you look at this is Schedule 5 in the regulations, and then you look at column 2 and 3. So column 2 and 3 are basically a description of the waste. So for example, here says putrescible organic waste, and there are many other categories. And then column 3 is the description. So if you find a column and description that matches your waste, so then you check, okay, column 5, is the waste pre-classified? Yes, or it's pre-classified, or if it's a mirror code. Mirror code means that there could be instances where that waste might not be hazardous. Like for example, here you see untreated timber, non-hazardous. But if it's treated timber, which has pesticides or CCA or some other sort of nasty, so it could be hazardous. So you follow this path: non-hazardous, hazardous. If it's determined to be non-hazardous, but in reality it is, so there might be some differences with EPA, so then a waste code has to be assigned. If it's pre-classified, then it's much easier, so it just goes to column 6 straight away, and then you find here, is priority waste or not? So if it's no, most likely it's just industrial waste, which is the lowest risk. And if it is, then column 7 and 8 is going to tell you if it's reportable priority waste or not. So this is the transport aspect of the waste. So if it's no, so it's just priority waste. It doesn't need to be reportable. And reportable means waste tracker, or like waste. The EPA wants to know where that waste is going. And then the ORC, the characterization, sorry, the categorization is what is going to tell me those thresholds. So in summary, classification is all this process. So classification is this part of the chart. Characterization is determining what the characteristics the waste has, if it can go for certain disposal or treatment. And then categorization is basically for determining in which part of the landfill or somewhere else it could go. So in summary, so these are your 4 key documents. So classifying industrial waste is part of is covering like the 3 Cs. But then the first C is classification, categorization, and category. Well, this one, the regulation covers a bit of the 3 of them. So I'll leave this one as well with the handout, so you guys will have the references. So now we're just gonna let the microphone to Shahbaz. Yeah. So he's gonna explain a bit about the 3Ds.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dean, and thank you, Carlos. Can you go to the previous slide first, Carlos, please?
Yeah, give me one second. This one?
Next one, please. Yeah. Any question on this one, so that we can start the other topic, because this is what I think we can spend, maybe 5-10 minutes, and then we can start the other one. So any question or anything is just because in my opinion, I think we have to look, because we are sitting in biosolids group, and what are biosolids in Schedule 5 of the regulation. So Carlos, can I just share, the regulation?
I have it up for you.
I can open. Or okay, if you can. Yeah, that's.
There is one question in the chat box, Dean. Have you seen the Dean?
Yeah, definitely. I was going to ask, Eamon, did you want to go off mute and ask that question?
Yeah, please.
Oh yeah, thanks. I was just going to ask if biosolids in this case is converted to biochar or compost, or a product which is no longer considered waste.
Yeah.
And would that fall out of the regulations, or is there any I suppose position on that at this stage?
Yeah. Okay. Can you, Carlos? Can you please just open Schedule 5 of these regs, please? As Carlos was explaining, how we have to the waste can be classified and categorized and characterized. The first step in every situation or waste when we are looking is this schedule, which is Schedule 5. And in Schedule 5, I'll just explain, just please go to K400 or K400, please. That first
that first K. All right.
Yeah, K400. So in this schedule, as you can see, there are various.
Can you make this bit bigger, please, for us?
Okay. Because this is very important to understand, if you're doing the classification, right? So why this is important, that the flow diagram which Carlos was showing you, so these were all the columns, he was just explaining. Okay, column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but what is this? So in that one, you have to check, if you go with that flow diagram. So this column 3 is the description. Then column 4 says what is the waste applicable waste code. And then column 5 is how we have classified this waste. Classified means it's a pre-classified as a pre or mirror. Okay, so it's a two things here. It's a pre and mirror. Okay, then the next column is column 6 is priority waste. And then column 7 is reportable priority waste. And column 8 is reportable priority waste transport. As Carlos was explaining, the reportable priority waste is from the old regulations or old act. These were the waste which were prescribed industrial waste. Right? These are equivalent to those waste, prescribed industrial waste. What that means for that one, transportation and permitted vehicle and those, those things are required for those PIWs. And that is same applicable for reportable priority waste. But in here, when we are classifying in this section, it's a pre and mirror. So you just go down, please now. So you see when it comes to here, when it comes to the treated sewage, solids or sludges and does not meet the permit condition of biosolid, which is this one is the schedule category A15. Then we have classified this one, or EPA has classified this waste as M. M is the mirror code. Whenever sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say the reason for mirror code is because you could have two options. So K400 exactly. Hazardous,
yes,
or non-hazardous.
So what that means, biosolids, basically, here we are explaining that sewage sludge is not biosolid and that can be hazardous. That is hazardous, and what hazard category it contains is priority waste, but reportable priority waste for transport and transit. Right? But if you go down now, just go down, please, Carlos. Okay. The next one.
My comment is right there. T3 is reportable priority waste, right?
Sorry. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, keep going, Shahbaz.
Edwin, are you saying something or? Sorry. Anyway. Okay. So then here, what is this one is a biosolids. Biosolid that meet the permit condition in the permit in relation to A15. A15 is schedule category, which is the permission category that, for biosolid supply or use, permit is required. And that we can go into, a section, schedule 1, and I can explain you that here. So this here we are saying this is column 6 is saying is non-hazardous because these are biosolids, and biosolid prepared as per the permit condition, and permit conditions are linked to those, old our guideline 943, which we will I don't know when we will update that one, but that is just a rough idea I'm just giving at this stage. So what that means, this waste is a priority waste, but not reportable and not reportable for transport. So that you can see the difference between all these when you are reading this. So yeah, this
but is it still waste? Because I saw a question here if yes. we can decategorize something that is no longer waste. No, like yes. There are a few implications about that. Like you need to demonstrate that it's not waste, even that it went through a treatment.
Yes, so that, Casey, your question, the biochar and all that, the Carlos, just go up is N, I think N code is there.
That was
the biochar or char one, the bottom ash one, N 120, I think, N here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not like you that remembers all those numbers, so I'm gonna have to look for bottom ash.
Okay, all right.
So I think it was here, N205.
So we have to understand, whatever you are preparing with the biosolid, say if it's gone to thermal treatment system, and after thermal treatment system, are you producing bottom ash or char?
Or char, yeah.
So this is how we have to look that, and based on that, it is what we are saying is it's all bottom ash, and that is reportable priority waste, and all that, the transport and all that. Yes. So in that way you have to look the management of
yeah. So probably Aravinda, you were asking that question, like if I grab if I have a business where I'm receiving biosolids, so then as a receiver, then you'll determine what code under this K are those biosolids. So the ones that Shahbaz showed before, this K, if it's this or this. But then if you are doing thermal treatment of those biosolids, what comes out is gonna be this N2O5. Because it's residues from industrial waste treatment. So it's a thermal treatment. So that's why under this number, you see that it doesn't make any difference between if it's char, however you call it, char, biochar, charcoal, or bottom ash.
Yeah.
Under the regulatory framework, they're going to be treated the same because it's a residue from industrial waste treatment operations. And if, let's say that, because we have been asked this question as well for waste to energy plants, if you are feeding something to a waste to energy plant, what comes out will be bottom ash, but then you have here fly ash or backhouse dust or air control operations materials like in this one. And in any case, like whether you call it backhouse dust or you call it fly ash, is reportable because it has certain risks. For bottom ash, it's the same. It has certain certain obligations to trace it, to track it.
Yeah. So I think it's one other hand is there. So then I think we will stop this one and we'll go to the
Then
next.
Continue.
Another.
Yes.
So as somebody has raised. Oh, will you? Oh, yes.
Yeah, I raised it.
Yes, Kim, how are you?
Very good, thanks. Thanks for explaining. It's really, really good. What you are doing is fantastic. Just wanted to check with just with that residue from industrial waste treatment. So under the food waste to energy recovery. So if you're bringing a waste from a trade waste treatment plant, say example, if it's a food manufacturing facility, and if you've got a trade waste treatment and the residue from the trade waste treatment, how do you classify? Is it still a food waste or is it should that be classified as an industrial waste residue?
So you're talking about the trade waste agreement and all that, the trade waste.
So if you're going to recover that residue from your trade waste treatment and transfer for a waste to energy recovery facility, while you bring it to the new the waste to recovery facility, is that still considered as a priority waste under the definition, or would that be?
Well, you need to work out. Yeah, go ahead, Shahbaz.
So trade waste, as you guys can see that, in our regulation in this one, trade waste, we have defined the trade waste as per the definition Water Act and the Water Trade Waste Regulation.
Yes. Sorry, maybe I'll clarify the question. The residue transported by the truck.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so first I'll clarify that, William. Okay, yeah. So before that, in our old regulation and old act, the trade waste was defined differently, but now trade waste is defined that is connected to the system. So it is the trade waste definition is there. I can show you later on that one. But what that means, if it's connected to the sewage system, so then it's a trade waste. But if it's not, then you have to go to this process. And if you are transporting, yes, you have to do that way.
Yeah, and when we say going through these processes, if you are the waste producer, you need to work out, like, from this table, what is your product? You know, like what is that material? So it's a solid, and you can, to give you a quick guide, this, you see that this is separated by category. So let me start here from the A. Just go in the first page. Yeah, so you can start here from section. So is the material a cyanide? No, maybe not. It's an acid, it's an alkaline waste, or it's an inorganic chemical. You just keep going until probably you find, I don't know what product that is. So probably it's like a sludge. So then, or it's a putrescible organic waste. So if it's a sludge or a industrial wash water and wastewater, so then it might be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is the, you know, it's on the operator, like the person or the business producing the material, to work out, okay, where in this table,
yeah,
I can classify my waste.
Yeah. And Carlos, can you go to the section regulation 63? I quickly explained this one, you know, what I was talking about with William. Regulation 63 C. Regulation 63C, where this is defined that, you know, what is trade waste in our regulation. 63.
Yeah, 63C.
Yeah, 63C, please.
Yeah, sorry, I have to do it manually because I lost the index. Yeah, 63C.
C. So 63C, as you can see in here, is written in relation to trade waste for discharge or deposit into the sewerage system of a water corporation in accordance with trade waste agreement. So that, William, this is a change now. Before that, it was only trade waste, but now it says, you know, trade waste deposit into this sewerage system. Okay, so that is it's a new thing, because I faced this question, a lot of questions, you know, in previously. So that's what this is. I think is a new addition now to clarify what is trade waste as per EPA regulation. I think we are getting short of time.
Yeah,
but only one thing I just want to share with you guys also. Carlos, if you can please share with them, you know, classification assessment protocol, which is a yes, this one. So in case, you know, okay, in case, as Casey said, that, you know, okay, if it's a biochar is produced, and biochar, you know, as we are biochar, the word I'm using, char, and char is not, in your opinion, you know, char is prepared only with the not hazardous waste. So what that means, you know, char can be without contaminants. So in that case, when that is the case, so in a way, say that, you know, a duty holder is saying that, you know, we means EPA's classification is saying that, you know, this is hazardous waste, but you know, the duty holder is saying, no, this is not hazardous, it is non-hazardous. So in that way, when that situation comes, you know, then this is the classification assessment protocol which we apply. And what is that protocol? If you go to the table 2, go to table 2, please. Sorry, I'm just rushing, you know, quickly because of the time. I think I have to cover other things. So here is the criteria which we have. If somebody waste, if that dispute is there, so then, you know, they have to go to this way. So what this criteria says, the waste which can be classified as appendix A, then it's a priority waste. If it's a B, then it's reportable priority waste, B and C. So then go down, please, Carlos, a little bit. If it's a C, E and D, then it's non-reportable. But if all above is not there, so then it can be industrial waste. So that, what are these, you know, appendices? Please just go through this criteria. Just go down, please, Carlos. just quickly show them, this is Appendix A, how you have to look your waste, and then, go down. It's a PBT and all that is there. And then in the end, Appendix E, especially if in case of char, I'm talking about, here. So in case of char, so we are concerned, if it's a D, if all these metals are there, including PFAS and all that, so then that may be priority waste, but non-reportable. And last one is Appendix E is how we define liquid and liquid means, most of the liquids are priority waste, which are banned from landfill. But in here, if you really want to go to the lab test, so the lab test is called paint filter test. So with that one, we can define, liquid and sludges. So that was a little bit, we wish, we could have, put more time.
Yeah,
so
the topic could get very extended, and I see a few questions about that, especially in the part of biochar, because it can get a bit confusing.
Yes.
And I will say, let me just quickly show you something here. I will say how we see as a regulator is depends on what you feed. That if you are feeding, let's say, green organics waste, and then this material undergoes a thermal treatment, then you may say that what comes out is biochar.
Yeah.
But if you are feeding something that may be more contaminated, maybe that starts to draw the line of something that is not biochar. And then if we keep going of feeding something that is not really organic or not biomass, then we shouldn't be calling this biochar. So that's why we kind of just say in this forum, anything that you claim that is biochar can go directly to application to land. Not necessarily. It depends on what you are feeding.
Yeah.
And what sort of processes you are having in between to determine if this material is as risky as a boromash, or if you can call it biochar.
Yeah, and this one, Casey, in our next lecture, I think is next month.
Yeah,
so we can
next lecture we explain this.
Thermal we can discuss on that time, Sorry for that, yeah. Okay,
right.
so if you go to the 3Ds now, I quickly just go through that,
Just before you go, Shahbaz, so just to summarize, guys, because I know there is a lot of stuff to digest. So this was the flowchart that we try as much as possible to make it clear for you. But if you are still confused, these four documents are your key documents. So classifying, and then categorizing, and then the regs. But then, yeah, so probably this is your key slide for this part of the presentation. So all right, so I'll let you, Shahbaz, now.
Yeah, so next slide, please. So now we are just slightly changing, the waste management, these 3Ds, and 3Ds are designation, determination, and declaration. So these are the three different things, what are in our regulation now. So when we were looking, the classification, and in Schedule 5 of the Environment Protection Act, if that waste is not classified there are so many waste which are not classified in Schedule 5. So what will happen for that one? For that one is we got, next slide, please. Sorry, next slide. Yes, so for those situations, if waste is not in that Schedule 5, so we got this tool which is called designation, and designations are in regulation 86 and 87. You can look into that, which is the authority issue designation, or applicant's request, we can issue the designation. So what are, little bit go down, please. Next slide, please, Carlos. So designations are basically as Carlos was explaining, the three players are very important in this waste management, which is the first one is the waste producer, waste transporter, and waste receiver. And waste receiver in a way is mostly the lawful place who is receiving this waste. So that is because waste receiver or the place which is receiving the waste is lawful place is very critical to understand, because on all these three players, waste duties, general environmental duties are applicable, and if you don't apply those duties or comply with duty, then enforcement action is required. So what is the designation? And in designation, so we can go next slide, please. Sorry. So these are basically sorry. Yeah. Yes. So that is basically, yeah. Go next slide, please. Next. Regulation 86 says that authority may issue a designation. So what is that? This is the classification which we old classification when we used to do. That's the same way we can designate waste as a priority waste or industrial waste, and then you know that you can take it for disposal or for reuse. So this is you know, to understand, you know, only designation is used for classifying as if the waste is not classified in schedule 5 of the regulation.
So as it says here, so if you don't find any classification, then you could apply for a designation, which is in a case-by-case basis.
Case-by-case basis, or let's see, you know, because we can issue classification, EPA can issue designation on our behalf, but we haven't issued those designation yet. But we are dealing with one by one, case by case. So next slide, please. So I'm just a little bit jumping. So in that case, you know, this was the what you know, the classification, characterization, categorization, but the designation is, click that please, Carlos. Yes. So designation comes, you know, this way. So if that is not classified, you know, the way, Carlos, can you please just point? Yeah, this one. This is called designation, and in this way you can characterize again and come into the whatever, you know, reportable priority waste or industrial waste, and then, you know, designation can be issued. So this is, you know, how where the designation kicks in. Right. So next one, please. So then, as I said, you know, all waste, you know, which fortunately or unfortunately, all sorts of waste, each and every waste, now we are regulating. What that means, the waste has to go to lawful place. Lawful place can be disposal or treatment or reuse or use. So that is actually, you know, we have to understand, you know, that lawful place in this new regulation is very critical. So lawful place can be permission. Permission means, you know, the licenses we issue, or any exemption, or an emergency authorization. And then two more tools are there. The first three tools, you know, which are permissions are equivalent to the current licenses. We have, you know, all the licenses, various scheduled activities, and just like all water corporation have their licenses. Then exemptions are, which are few exemptions, you know, in regulation 63. But then the emergency authorization is just like old 30A approvals we used to issue through when and also, you know, when there is a hardship or just like fire or those type of authorization. But these two tools, which are determination and declaration of use, are new tools. So next, please. Next
Could I
slide.
interrupt just for a second,
Yeah,
Shahbaz? I'm
yes.
just mindful that we've got 7 minutes left and a lot of questions in the question area. Would you mind if we went to the questions?
Okay, maybe that all right. Okay.
No worries, thank you. Now, I was mindful too that there was some hands up and they've dropped. So if anyone wants to go off mute and just ask your question directly, please do.
Yeah. And these one we can do this maybe some other day, you know, the Ds.
Perfect.
Yeah, otherwise it will be rushing and rushing. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, just probably I'll say let's focus on the questions that they are not like case by case type of question. So maybe something that is more general, because otherwise we'll
no worries. I could
longer.
Bill or Dylan, you've got your hand up.
There's
I'll let Bill go first.
If you were to do a thermal process on biosolids and the resultant material would have been classified as T1C2 and applicable to land applications. So you've done a thermal process. Let's say for the sake of GED, we've done it so that we've removed some chemicals of concern. We've got what we call a biochar. It still meets heavy metal guidelines around agricultural application of biosolids. Yeah. It is a biosolid product in that, you know, it was only made from biosolids. It's gone through a process, and it could be called a biochar, or it could be called a biosolid char.
From the regulatory perspective, just call it char. It's a char.
Yeah, but if it's char, it seems like it's deemed hazardous and needs to be in prescribed process, where we've actually made it less hazardous, and we think it would be better for land application. So I feel like there could be some issues with biosolids and thermal processing.
The issues that I will mention is as a regulator, you don't know, like we don't know what you fed. You know, like you said that they are biosolids, but we don't know what they are made of. You know, so the biosolids, they could have X or Y contaminants. So there are two concepts there. So one is, yes, the biosolids are going through a thermal process, and that thermal process may have destroyed most of the contaminants of concern, but there will be some contaminants that will remain, or some contaminants that they might be created as a result of the thermal process itself. So one part is demonstrating, and that's when it comes the accumulated knowledge of your industry. So one thing is that you demonstrate that those biosolids are non-hazardous, and the other is that those biosolids, they can be received by a lawful place. So this lawful place, in this case, what you are suggesting, that is land application. So land. Yeah. So if it's a farm, so that product has to be deemed non-hazardous and meeting all that criteria that is required for that place to be received. And that's what I'll suggest. Be very careful how we use the term biosolids and biochar, because a biochar might not be free of certain contaminants that they cannot be applied to land, and that's the part that needs to be like it needs to be analyzed case by case, you know, like, because we don't know all the nitty-gritty of the material that came in.
Yeah, I just want to understand from an EPA perspective, in terms of, like, we will have the, you know, as a responsible authority, we'll have that information about what went in, what's in it at the end of that thermal process. But under this regulation, it sort of just says it's hazardous. How do we change that for a, I don't know, a product, if you like? Do we go, like, because it seems like we're not allowed to get a determination because there's already a regulatory classification. So how do we change that classification for a particular process or product?
Yeah, so probably, well, we are in the scientific area, so we are not the ones giving you advice on how to, you know, how to do those legal proceedings with EPA. But what I can tell you is, if you think that your product cannot go through this path, and that product needs to go here. That's when you apply for a designation. The designation process is gonna tell EPA, okay, your thermally treated biosolids, they are gonna require certain characterization, and then EPA will assign a code. So that's how I see that it could help you. But again, like in this
so we
in
can
this
seek
chat
a
that we have,
designation.
Yes.
yeah, you could see a designation and talking on behalf of an officer that will be analyzing your case. What I will do is I will check this. I'll say, okay, if you claim that your material is applicable to land, I will say, but this is a type of char. So you say that is a biochar, but it's a biosolid that has been undergoing some thermal treatment. And then I'll look, okay, is that material complying with this state? Like is free of all those contaminants? And if not, are those contaminants that they are of major concern or not? And that's how an officer will analyze that. So say, okay, maybe all the contaminants here are lower than this threshold, but they might be something that is a bit off, but still it could be applicable to land, or maybe not.
Yeah.
Just bear in mind that I'm showing here just a section of that table. The table is quite long. Let me see if I can share it with you. We don't have that much time, but if you have a look at this,
No, that's fine.
this document, that table is quite,
gives
it's
a
like 3
pathway.
pages. Yeah.
And I don't know who was talking, but anyway, so then, the other thing is, this is just the classification, and then the schedule category, which is called now prescribed permission activity. So that you have to do, just like, for biosolid supply or use, we got category A15 in our regulation. And
Let me
can you please just
for you, Shahbaz, because otherwise
yes, please, yeah, because that is critical for them to understand. No, in the regulation, please. Yes, A15 on page 253, page 265 electronically. Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah.
here, yes, please. Thank you. So this is A15. So if you have prepared biosolids, so then after preparing the biosolid, then you are supply or use for that one, you can see it's a permit is required, right? But say if char is even reportable, go down please, a little bit, yeah, A16. So A16 can be used, supply or use is also there. You got my point, so this will give you the approval to use that. And permit is, if we got 3 categories, one is the license, and that's what I was going to show you. What are the
I'll show this one.
Yes, so license, permits, registrations, and then all these things kicks in. So in a way, you don't need license, but you need a permit, because that you have to also look, is it registration activity or permit activity? Go to that one, please, Carlos, for the biosolid. The other one which you're showing,
the
regulation, please. Oh, I wish I could
pages.
have more time, because it's not easy. So here you can see is a prescribed permit activity. But few things are, go up and down, please, little bit up or down. So here you go down. Here you can see registration.
So this is not.
It's not permit, but registration. But on top, if you go, so then it will be like a permissions activity. So that you have to look also before using or supplying,
So basically, this is schedule 1. This table in the regulator is telling you how, like from the regulatory perspective, how risky an activity is.
Mm-hmm.
So activities that they are considered riskier, so they would have more prescribes or more permits, and that's what we were showing here. So if you are operating a hazardous waste treatment plant, so obviously you're going to need a license. But if you have a farm for doing very low risk activities, so maybe you will be here, and then all the other industries are in between.
Yes.
But depending on what the activity is, so then the depending on what the risk involves with the activity, so that's the type of permission that you will need.
Yeah, sorry, Dean, we are taking 3 minutes.
That's okay. What
so
I was thinking
it's a catchy topic, but sorry, we were not sure, this is my time.
No, that's all right. So what's come to mind is that we have the next session. Was it on the 19th of November? I might extend that time from an hour to an hour and a half because I think the questions are extremely important.
Right.
For those that can stay on the line and want to continue on with your questions, is that we'll continue the recording so that you can listen to the tail end of this if you need to leave at 3. And I was mindful that Dylan was waiting patiently with his hand up, whether you wanted to ask your question.
I think my questions have evolved back and forth quite a bit over the session. So, but I'll just off the back of that last comment, I was curious. So, it seems like if we are licensed for a certain activity, let's say the management of sludge removal, stockpiling of biosolids, and then potentially even spreading of biosolids within the property boundary or the same confines of a wastewater treatment plant. If that is all licensed under one agreement or one license or registration, one license, do we still need to seek individual permits if it's saying a prescribed permit is available? Because based on that previous pyramid you showed, it seemed like there was a hierarchy of approval. If we're already licensed, why should we have to seek a permit every time?
Because in this case, the material is going off site.
No, well, okay. The case I was just giving is if it's staying on site.
Yeah.
So if it says
that would be a tricky question because it depends on the how you as a duty holder demonstrate that material can be applied to land, because otherwise you might be crossing the line of contaminating your own land. Like that's the. And I'm not because we have very short time, so I'm not seeing all the reports and all the lab analysis or that sort of stuff. So I cannot give you an straight answer. But go ahead, Shahbaz.
And Dylan, this is because these categories which we are showing, this the activities, permission activities, as you can see, for current operations, we can issue multiple categories, multiple activities, just like say if it's a composting facility, it's an anaerobic digestion facility somewhere, and they are treating A1, also they are receiving a reportable priority waste, so and producing biogas, so they will be A01, A07 and A08. So the same way this can be applicable in this one, or if you guys are under amalgamated license.
Yes.
I'm not sure, yes, I know most of the authorities are. So that I think is our permissioning area. I think they are looking into those things. So maybe they can advise you more on that.
Yeah. So I think what I understood from that A15 section that we were looking at is the description next to it basically says, unless this is already covered under another license, already licensed within further up in the table. So
because A15, say if it's a biosolid, are you dewatering or drying or supplying, so you need a EIP currently, isn't it?
That's right.
Okay, so that is now we are putting all those things in these activities. So in that way we have to cover, so that is, little bit our approval section look after, but that is how it is look now, all these activities. Before that we used to have only 8 or 9 A activities, but now are about 26 or 27.
Yeah, I was going to say that as a takeout from this, whenever you are going to engage in a new industrial activity, this Schedule 1 table is very important.
Yes.
So you have a look at this table, and it covers, I would say, 90% of all the industrial activities.
Yes.
So if you are, for example, here supplying biosolids, but then it happens that you want to receive reportable priority waste, so then you might be falling into this activity A01.
Or A7 or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, like for example, waste to energy plants, they will have these A01, but also
A08.
A08,
yeah,
which is somewhere here. And then if you are exporting energy, probably you'll be in power plants.
Power plants, yeah. So
yeah,
that
so you'll
depends,
be you'll be covering a couple of activities, not just one. And each activity you need to check, what are the sort of permits that they are needed. Again, all of this comes back to how risky to the environment, to human health and the environment the activity is. So the riskier it is, so it's obviously implying that they will need more permissions.
Yeah. So maybe our development assessment unit, which is look after the approval section, so they might be thinking maybe for amalgamated license for water corporations, we have to give only one permit for all sites. I'm not sure, Dylan. So this I think this is slightly permissioning area, and but as far as I know, these are all activities are there. Thank you.
Yeah, so don't take us written on a stone what we said, because that permission part is with the AU. Like,
I used
case by case basis. So they will need certain documentation to understand, okay, what is your activity? What are the risks? What are you planning to do with those materials? To be able to work out if you need a license, a permit, or just a registration.
I used to be in DAU, Development Assessment Unit, for 10 years. So then I moved to the science area now. So that's why I know a little bit all these things.
Yeah, fantastic. Now,
right,
I'm
guys.
mindful we're a bit over time. I'm just wondering, before anyone else leaves, was there any burning questions?
Yeah.
Dean, can we get some consensus for the next meeting to be for 1.5 hours than 1 hour? If the group is generally happy for 1.5 hours, we will resend the meeting invites.
Yeah, I think so. I think we should, just to see that we've gone over this time. And the other thing is, if you've got any questions that you want to ask, you can either email us at inquiries@iwn.org.au. We'll collect those questions and have some answers ready for you directly via email or at the next session. And I saw a hand go up. Did it disappear?
Yeah. And Dean, I will just, before the next session, I will little bit explain, for 5 minutes, declaration and all that, which we missed this time. That will be handy for you guys, from industry point of view, how you guys can use those tools, when those are required.
Yeah, that'd be great. Now I can see, Betty, you've got your hand up.
Hello. Yes. Hopefully, I have a quick question, but if it's not good, don't worry if you cannot answer due to time. It is a burning question for me. I don't know if it's a burning question for everybody else, but I think in regard to a receiving end, if a producer needs a license, for example, for what they're producing, then does the receiver also need a license to deal with the same product? Did that make sense?
So can you please repeat again? Yes, sorry.
Yes, so if a producer producing waste material, for example, biosolids of some categorization, and so if they've gone through the process and they understand they have a license to produce that produce, what about the recipient? Do they require the same sort of license to deal with that product?
Okay, so I'll give you very simple example. Say there are so many industries, and those are producing various types of waste, right? So those waste, which if industry is producing those waste, apart from those like waste treatment facilities, those we don't look after that. So those are waste produced from those industries. But if they are receiving waste, then this different activities kicks in, which are A activities.
Shahbaz, I think to make Betty's question simple, so our water industry generates produces biosolids, say T1, C2. So we need to have a license. We're taking these biosolids to our farmers Do farmers need license to use biosolids? Is a question that I think Betty is asking. Betty,
oh,
right?
This is the question. Yes, the farmers, now this is because they are taking this waste, and this waste is going to them. So then is declaration of use will kick in. So declaration of use is what they must have. And declaration of use is not approval from EPA. It can be, they can have, because whatever you are supplying to the farmers, they should understand, both parties should understand that how that material is used. So what that means, if you are producing what type of biosolids, so then you have to tell them, and both should be agreed that how they will apply to land, and that is called declaration.
One way we cover that is we have a biosolids customers agreement with our customers, so we capture all those in that agreement.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so the way that we approach it, Aravind, is if you are producing something, that product should have certain specifications.
Yes.
So whether engineering or environmental specifications, those specifications, they have to match to what the receiver wants. So if the receiver has the information that those biosolids have those specifications to be applicable to land, then that's fine. So from the regulator perspective, I think the key part is that what is coming out of here, that meets that criteria.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these people receiving is believing you that what you are giving them is appropriate, is ready for that use. So if it's not, and it happens that that material has some contaminants and they were not aware of that, so then the regulator will look at here where that material came from. So were these guys doing their waste duties or not? So were they providing the sufficient information to the receiver or not? So that's probably the key part that you have to keep in mind. So what are the specifications?
Go to slide 38. I think that will little bit clarify that. The slide.
This one. Yeah.
Yeah, this one. You guys can see that how the permissions, declaration of use, authority assessed, and declaration of self-assessed, and determination. How all these kicks in, and that was that was my session to explain you guys that this way how you can do. So maybe the biosolid which you are preparing can come under the self-assessed DOU. Self-assessed means no approval required from EPA, but what that means, anybody or officers can come and they can ask you how you are doing that. So then you can go in this way. But sorry, go
ahead.
And authority can also specify declaration of use, and maybe for all biosolids we will put that one. So you see, all these new regs are very flexible, and I can say that we got most of the answers to industry's questions, and how this can be navigated through various tools. So that is actually one example.
This will go in line to what we are planning to show you guys in the next meeting. That is also about what comes here.
Yeah.
Depends what you are feeding. If I'm here, if I'm feeding vegetables mixed with PCBs and nasties, so obviously I'm not expecting you to have a declaration of use. So that might be permission.
Yes.
But if you are feeding a feedstock that is considered low risk and the process itself is low risk, so then you can follow a path that is regulatory wise much simpler than something else that is a bit more risky.
Yeah. And these determinations, this is authority issued determinations, and we got, I think, 4 or 5 determination right now, which is the manure, organic waste, fill material, and I think aggregates or something. So 4 or 5. So maybe more are coming. So this is what we specify, that how this waste, if that meets this specification, whatever the specification is, just like if it's a compost, so then this will be organic waste, then AS4454 and AS4454, what are the contaminants and physical, chemical, and biological, and maturity index and all those things. So then you can apply to land based on that one, but you don't need to come to us if you are complying with that. So in that way, these various tools are there, how industry can adopt that.
I think that we went over time.
And the next one is...
Yeah, next time we're gonna leave more time for questions there.
That's okay.
But that's good. That's good. You guys are being engaged.
Absolutely. And then I'm wondering, is there anyone who's still on the line that had a burning question before we wrap up today?
Yeah, somebody said 943. Yes, I think currently 943, or if industry water authority can find out better than that, then they can tell us. And that's why it's a shared responsibility with both industry and EPA now, and that is called what Carlos was explaining in the beginning, the how we have to look all these things together, which is the knowledge sharing and all that, and that is a part of the state of knowledge, and how we can work together with industry. So
Shahbaz, are you telling us that there won't be any more updated biosolids guidelines from EPA Victoria? We have to stick with 943 for the rest of our lives?
No, we are working. No, we are working. But on the other side, of course, water authorities are big stakeholders, and we have to listen. You guys also how everybody is doing, and what are the best practices.
Yeah, I sort of understand. You're paying out of interest. Yes, that guideline is an ancient one and it's very long, so it needs a lot of consultation and reviews before the new revision comes up.
Yeah, because just like enteric viruses, nobody does in PFU. So this is, I don't know how we got that PFU in there, for enteric viruses.
I know.
PFU, nobody is doing here in Victoria. Is anybody, can anybody tell me? No, nobody.
I don't think so. No, nobody's using PFUs.
Well, anyway.
Jonah is on the line. Jonah, are you on the line, Jonah? Let's go.
All right,
anyway.
No worries. Well, thank you so much, Shahbaz and Carlos. You can see the interest in this topic, so we're very grateful to have you today. Thank you for those that stayed on the line a bit longer than we expected. The calendar invite's been updated for an hour and a half for our next session, so that we've got enough time for questions.
Yeah.
And then from where I sit, also thank you to Aravind and Rodrigo, who manage our IWN biosolids and resource recovery program. So most of the organising behind the scenes happens from those guys. So thank you.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and I'm looking forward to the next session. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic.